on as his win condition.
When we do get to the sideboards here, you'll find that Clayton actually has his Torrential Gearhawks in the sideboard. So we'll see how Korey is going to mulligan, a sideboard against that when we do get to that point. But these players are ready. Both have kept 7 cards. And we are going to be underway here to start things off in Atlanta with Martin Vehicles on your left, Blue-White Control on your right. I want to thank you very much for joining us early this morning in a brand new standard format. Like we said, we have no idea what to expect. It seems like you wonderful people at home don't either, which should make this tournament very watchable. We will see who will be on the play here momentarily as we begin things here in Atlanta. It'll be Clayton Moore. He will start things off with a new land.
Yep.
It is Irrigated Farmlands, the new blue-white cycling duel. And Korey is going to fire his shot right away. It's a Concealed Courtyard into Toolcraft Exemplar. If Clayton didn't know what he was playing, he certainly does now.
And from McDuffie's side of things, even, you would expect this this deck to be very popular week 1. It has a pedigree, didn't lose any cards in the emergency banning. Still some new options here for McDuffie. Playing a couple copies of Canyon Slough, the new cycling land, 2 copies of Glorybringer, and 3 copies of Cut to Ribbons.
Okay. Veteran Motors is going to be hit by an Essence Scatter, which is also a new card. Old art on that particular copy that was cast, but it is a new reprinting here. And it's good to have it back. Obviously, Shaheen Sarani very happy with that being back in the format since he loves a counterspell. But Essence Scatter actually does fill some holes in the format for blue decks.
There are some very powerful creatures that cost 5. Good option for fighting in Torrential Gearhulk mirror matches as well.
Moore is going to cycle a cast out, another new card. It's a more expensive Oblivion Ring, but it's got some functionality, obviously, with flash and some other things going on there. McDuffie just with an attack for 1, so it's not a very aggressive start here for Korey, but what this leads me to believe, if I'm in Clayton Moore's seat as he misses his land drop, if he's not really doing much in the opening turns of the game, there's got to be a Gideon here in his hand, probably.
Or, I mean, this deck does play, a fair number of 5s here with Archangel Avacyn and Glorybringer as well. Also, keep in mind, Moore's not giving McDuffie an opportunity to play any of his removal spells, so cards like Unlicensed Disintegration could easily be in McDuffie's hand as well.
Moore will cast and anticipate. Going to take a look at the top couple of cards. He'll select one. Other 2 are going to go to the bottom. Clayton will be untapping and drawing here in just a moment. You have to imagine he's just found land number 4, but we will find out soon enough. Taking a look at the number of lands in his deck, only 25. Feels a little light.
Well, he is playing with a lot of cycling cards. He has 3 copies of Censor and 4 copies of Cast Out, so he has effectively more than 25 lands, but this is a deck that definitely needs to make its land drops turn after turn, especially with Pull from Tomorrow as this deck's way of kind of getting ahead.
It's another attack here for 1 by McDuffie, and now here's another copy of Anticipate by Moore. So take a look at the top 3 yet again. See if he can find that 4th land since he hasn't found it yet. He selected a card. 2 will go to the bottom. He'll be untapping and drawing here in just a second, will Clayton.
He saw McDuffie there with Gideon allies in the card in hand, but unwilling to deploy it. Also, I believe at least 1, maybe 2 copies of Unlicensed Disintegration in hand, too.
Now, he's just found one of his better cards in this matchup, I have to imagine, has McDuffie in a copy of Scrap Heap Scrounger. If that doesn't get exiled, it's going to be a problem here for Clayton Moore.
And this is one of the very few cards in the format, but a very prevalent card that's going to punish you for playing with Essence Scatter over Horribly Awry.
It looks like the Scrap Heap Scrounger is in, which means Toolcraft Exemplar is a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, and it's coming in for 3 as opposed to 1. And now a real clock has been placed on Clayton Moore. Clayton is going to reveal Engulf the Shores on accident, but what he's actually going to do is play another copy of Anticipate. So if McDuffie wasn't aware that he's against Engulf the Shores, he obviously knows now, and that's really what Clayton's deck is built around. This resolves his 3rd Anticipate of the game. He'll untap and draw here. There is land at number 5. Those Prairie Streams, of course, entering the battlefield tapped.
Naturally.
Some things never change. McDuffie will draw. Another copy of Scrap Heap Scrounger. You can see his hand, however. It is very loaded up, but he's just going to attack, trigger the Exemplar. This will be an attack here for 6, and now here is Engulf. So that is going to make Moore pick up, that's going to make McDuffie pick up those creatures. Engulf the Shores is an interesting card. It actually combos very well with Torrential Gearhawk, but it's a card that we haven't seen a lot of.
And I think this is a place where, the cycling lands, having the basic land types is going to be really important as well.
Yep.
I think it's going to be potentially difficult to play just a mono blue deck. So the more dual lands that you can play that have the island tag, the better it is for this card. And Clayton Moore playing with Irrigated Farmland just gets 1 more tagged island.
Here is Gideon Ally of Zendikar. Maybe the other card that players were expecting to be banned. But it is still here, and it is obviously still very good.
It's still here, and it's still, you know, 20 some odd dollars, which might be the reason why it's still here.
I'll take the over on that for the record, as we're going to head back over to Clayton Moore. Another copy of Irrigated Farmland.
So Clayton Moore, his deck is not the best against Gideon,
No,
as you would imagine a blue-white control deck, but there are some workarounds here. He does have his copies of Engulf the Shore, which is a way of getting the tokens off of the battlefield. He has 4 copies of Cast Out, so he's got a clean answer. And he can also simply just pull ahead with cards like Fumigate and pull from tomorrow. So even though this card is not good for a blue-white control deck, Moore's deck is set up with a couple of sideways answers to it and a couple of ways just to overpower it. I think at this point, McDuffie here, a little bottleneck with removal. Several copies of Cut to Ribbons and then Unlicensed Disintegrations in his hand as well.
And just a lot of cards in hand, too.
Yep.
Gideon's going to go up. In for 5. Let's make it 7. And now there is Cast Out. This could be a play pattern that we actually end up seeing a lot.
Yeah. Clayton Moore's blue-white control deck, instead of immediately losing to a resolved Gideon allies in a car, was able to get it off the battlefield. It's a new world.
So that the board is pretty clear what's going on. Thank you.
You'll notice last turn that McDuffie had to discard the hand size after the Engulf the Shores and got rid of Cut to Ribbons, which is really good for him because casting Cut is basically impossible against Moore's deck unless McDuffie is willing to target one of his own creatures. But now he has Ribbons in the graveyard, which could come up later on.
Cut to Ribbons on screen, please.
It's a Fumigate, which is fine. It's not exciting when you're killing 2 creatures that can come back, of course, but as you see Cut to Ribbons, Cut's going to deal 4, and then Ribbons in the graveyard. Each opponent loses X life, which is where, as you mentioned, that card wants to be.
And even though it's not ideal for Moore, as you mentioned, to be fumigating away these recursive creatures, McDuffie's hand's really bottlenecked right now. He's missing land drops, and so it's a pretty big cost for him to start recurring these Scroungers. That Fumigate right there is likely to buy Moore a lot of time.
Scrap Heap Scrounger number 3 has resolved, and now it's a Toolcraft Exemplar, and the follow-up is a Thraben Inspector, which will bring along a clue. So Artifact's not going to be an issue here for McDuffie at all. And Clayton will be drawing. A land there for Moore. And now my question is there an approach of the Second Sun's looming?
Or a pull from tomorrow.
Which would also be fine. Tapping a lot of mana right now. Yes! All right, let's take a look, Skipoo.
Ooh, someone got it at the pre-release.
Yes, did.
Got the pre-release foil.
If Approach of the Second Suns was cast from your hand and you've cast another spell named Approach of the Second Suns this game, you win the game, which has not happened yet. Otherwise, put Approach of the Second Suns on into its owner's library 7th from the top, and you gain 7 life. So Clayton Moore's going to go up to 21. And now he's just got to cast another one of these. Now, keep in mind, he's playing 3 copies. Good multiples.
And it is good in multiples.
Yep.
Very good, very good insight.
I'm on it.
Additionally, very good with pull from tomorrow.
True.
Because it's not hard to get down 7 cards. And McDuffie's deck, game 1, can't interact with this at all.
Here come the beatdowns. 3, 6, let's make it 7. So the life gained from the powerful sorcery has been undone, but McDuffie's got a little ways to go. Inspiring Vance is going to enter the battlefield tapped. Clayton Moore going to untap. He's going to draw. There's an island. Does he have a pull? Does he have a way to get back to that other copy of Approach? Remember, he is creatureless. This is how he has to win.
And McDuffie's hand, just a bunch of Unlicensed Disintegrations and Cut to Ribbons. So going creatureless here, at least game 1, for Moore, looking very good.
Scrap Heap Scrounger will be returned from the graveyard. Veteran Motorist has been exiled. We also saw McDuffie sacrifice a clue. Moore doing a little math, saying, how much am I going to take next turn? 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? 10 isn't 14. I might be able to make it out of this alive. McDuffie will draw another copy of Toolcraft Exemplar.
If McDuffie drew a second black source of mana, it would be lethal if he was able to flash back the Cut to Ribbons.
If it's an untapped black resource,
yes,
too.
which he doesn't have a whole lot of.
That's tough to get in his deck.
Yeah, we're looking at basically a couple copies of Spire of Industry.
Moore down to 4. That black source enters the battlefield tapped. Come on.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Pull from tomorrow? Yes. This is happening. This is happening.
That's a good way to start the day.
Yes, it is.
Because you see, you win the game as 7 cards down. So that's a really good spot for Brain Geyser, because then you have seen 7 cards.
Okay.
He has to discard 1.
That's tough.
Hopefully it's not Approach.
That's a real drawback. Going to discard, of course, Port Town. Garbage Town. Coming in, clear for takeoff, in for the landing, approach of the Second Sons. Clayton Moore. Clayton Moore.
Good morning to you.
Absolutely. Hi. That is a W here for Clayton Moore. He wins game number 1 here over Korey McDuffie. Blue-white controls approach of the Second Son up a game of Mardu vehicles. And we saw your tweets a little earlier this morning. Don't make Mardu vehicles the first round of the day. This has got to be pretty satisfying for you Mardu vehicles haters.
And a lot of people that I know who are in the loop have said, you know, the new set is pretty hostile towards Mardu vehicles, and we saw that game more able to buy himself a lot of time, even though, you know, McDuffie was able to do some Mardu vehicles things. McDuffie just floundering with so much removal in his hand at the end of the game, and more with an alternate win condition that completely avoided any of McDuffie's interaction.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Take a look at the sideboards here. Now things are going to get better for Korey, I imagine. 3 Lay Bare of the Heart. That's a new discard spell. 2 Fumigate, 2 Magma Spray, 2 Nahiri the Harbinger, a Canyon Slew, a Cast Out of Linval the Preserver, another copy of Painful Truth, a Sorngrim's Nemesis, and Sweltering Suns, which is kind of your new Slagstorm Pyroclasm-esque effect from Amonkhet. What do we like and why?
Well, this is the type of matchup where Mardu Vehicles likes to go big. I think the Planeswalkers here in Sorin and Nahiri, great ads. I think Painful Truth. The star for this matchup, another new card for Amonkhet, is Lay Bare of the Heart. This card is basically just 2-mana coercion in the matchup. Should be excellent here.
Other side of things for Clayton Moore. Now this sideboard's a little bit different, so brace yourself. 4 Blessed Alliance, obviously going to be good against Heart of Kiran, some other things, but also going to be bad against a card like Scrap Heap Scrounger. You've got 4 Horribly Awry, 3 Ceremonious Rejection, 3 Torrential Gearhulk, not Torrential Rejection, and then a Disallow. So, we don't have the Gearhulks in the main. We got him in the side. Obviously the card's very, very powerful, so what do we think here?
Well, if the Torrential Gearhulks are in the sideboard, I imagine it's part of a conversion plan for just about any matchup. The problem is I think that McDuffie assumes that Torrential Gearhulk would be here regardless and is probably keeping in at least some number of unlicensed disintegrations. But it wouldn't surprise me if this was just a sideboard plan that Moore had for every matchup. I'm not a huge fan of Blessed Alliance in the matchup because of just Thraben Inspector, Gideon Allies, and their card tokens. It's just too much throwaway. But the Horribly Arise, I think, as an answer to Scrap Heap Scrounger and just a fine 1-for-1 mana efficient answer is a good card to bring in.
I don't have my approach to the Second Son jokes ready. I feel like I've let the people down.
I wasn't, you know, I was expecting to see this card possibly a little bit in some Aetherworks Marvel decks. I know there's been some talk about that.
Okay.
I was not expecting blue-white control.
I'm digging it. I am digging it.
But as you can see, a lot of tools for blue-white control in the set. A very powerful card drawer and pull from tomorrow. Some very good efficient answers with cycling and censor and cast out. This deck definitely got some new tools here from Amonkhet.
Well, as this player's your sideboard, Korey McDuffie will be on the play with his obviously very powerful Mardu Vehicle decks against Clayton Moore, his boy control deck. But let's talk about our reigning and defending Invitational Champion, who is here this weekend. That's Jacob Baugh. We will see him later today, I am sure. Most of you should be familiar with the Energy Reserve token that he won after winning the Atlanta Invitational at the end of last year. Then had a deep run in our Players' Championship in 2016 that was eventually won by Joe Lissette. Now, not a lot of time left to get this Jacob Baugh Energy token because we're going to have our other Invitational coming up soon in Roanoke, but here's the way you can go about getting this one right now.
Well, the best and easiest way to go and get this token is to show up to the SCG Tour. Anyone who participates in an Open or a Classic receives this token for free. If you can't make it out to the SCG Tour, place an order from Star City Games, $5 or greater, and it will be shipped with this token for free.
Congratulations to our Atlanta Invitational Champion. That is, of course, Jacob Baugh. We will see him later today, and I'm sure some other members of Team Card Hoarder as well. We're underway here in game number 2. Korey McDuffie going to start things off very aggressively with an Inspiring Vantage into a Toolcraft Exemplar. Now, remember that last game, Exemplar had some difficulty getting big early. That gave Clayton Moore plenty of time to get his game plan online. For Moore, is that a Port Town untapped?
Untapped. Against all odds.
Okay. Okay.
Clayton Moore firing on all cylinders. Won game 1. Played an untapped Port Town to start game 2.
For Korey McDuffie, he is firing off on all cylinders. This is the Mardu Vehicle start. Toolcraft Exemplar, play Heart of Kiran, trigger the Exemplar, get in for 3. Exemplar can obviously crew the Heart. It's a great start here for Korey McD. For Clayton Moore, just an island. He'll pass the turn back, and when Mardu Vehicles gets to start like this, it means that cards like Essence, Scatter, and other counter magic, Horribly Awry, become a lot worse.
Yeah, I mean, this is the bad scenario here for Moore. Is on the draw against this start. It's the best opening that McDuffie's deck has in the matchup, and can Moore find a way to finagle his counter spells and removal to stem the tide and eventually answer what's already on the battlefield? It's going to be tough.
A Plains here for McDuffie. He'll tap 2 mana. This is a Scrap Heap Scrounger. We'll see if this does resolve. And it will, which means it'll crew the heart, trigger the Exemplar, and it's a big attack for 7. If Clayton Moore's taking this and that Scrap Heap Scrounger is resolving, I'm not feeling good about his chances this game.
Yeah, if Moore had a Horribly Awry there, even in Essence Scatter, I would say, you know, he's at least stemmed the tide a little bit, but I'm guessing he's just way too far behind.
Just because I don't know what you have updated. Which one? Yeah, hold on.
Just a third land here from Moore and a passing of the turn. McDuffie gonna untap, gonna draw, probably gonna attack for a bunch in just a moment.
We might have to consider renaming this Mardu Vehicles deck, as it no longer has vehicles.
It doesn't have a ton.
It has one vehicle. It has Heart of Kirin. That's it.
It might, you know, depending on how the format shapes up, we might see Harvester and Cultivator's Caravan come back into the deck. Obviously, Smuggler's Copter not going to be back anytime soon.
When the deck only has one vehicle, and McDuffie here has gone down to 2 copies of Spire of Industry, implying that there are fewer artifacts in the deck generally.
Sure.
Might be time for a rename.
Here come the beatdowns. Moore down to 3. Needle Spires is nice insurance against whatever's going to happen here. Now, if you're McDuffie, right, let's see, what are you playing around? Mostly in golf at this stage?
Or just some card that I'm not thinking of that's off my radar.
Yeah.
You know.
Moore will play a Prairie Stream, that'll on the battlefield untapped.
Possible that he just didn't want to get stifled by a disallow, which
Also
happens
fine.
if he crews.
Yeah.
You know, there's reasons to do it. He gives up 1 point, but I think it's just safer. And once you get Moore down to this life total, you've kind of got the game locked up, because you have to imagine at some point Moore needs to tap out on his own turn to do something, and then the Needle Spires can wrap it up.
Yep. McDuffie will play another copy of Toolcraft Exemplar. That new one is looking to crew the Heart of Kirin.
And I think he wants to crew the Heart of Kirin in this spot to give himself an attacker that pushes through Engulf the Shores.
Yeah.
Because the poor town's on an island.
No spells there that game from Clayton Moore, by the way. Zero spells cast.
Yep. McDuffie
That's tough.
picks up game 2 against a punching bag.
Korey, McDuffie, Clayton Moore, gonna get ready here for game number 3. Game number 1, exciting. Game number 2, less so. Thankfully, we have a third one on the way here. Now, I'll take a look at Clayton, who's just shuffling. Doesn't look like he's going back to the drawing board at all. Would you?
I don't know. To me, the question is still, what does he want to do with the Torrential Gearhulks? I think the 4 copies of Horribly Awry should be in the deck, and definitely with more on the play. Blessed Alliance, I'm still not a fan of. You can justify it. It's good against some of McDuffie's cards, but I think on the balance, Moore has just better control options already in his main deck.
What about for Korey? Anything here?
No, I'm sure that he just had to cut some of his removal, some of his less efficient cards, and just go big, plus the discard spells and lay bare the heart.
All right, let's talk Fleecekeeper very quickly here before these 2 players get ready here for game number 3. Newest member of our creature collection. We'll have Imperious Perfect for you beginning in May, just a couple of short days from now, but this is available now in playmat sleeves and player bundles. Make it quick. Go.starcitygames.com/creature collection. Of course, it's a play on Peacekeeper. As you wonderful people do know. Now game number 3 between McDuffie and Moore. Head up back down to the match. And it looks like Korey's going to take a mulligan here very quickly. Looks like he's going to take a look at 6 cards. Clayton Moore going to be keeping 7.
What's interesting in this matchup, from my perspective, is McDuffie and Mardu Vehicles decks in general have a lot of tools for going late. They have a lot of impactful 4 and 5 mana cards. I suspect they're not that good in this matchup. Glorybringer, I would be surprised, is still in the deck. Archangel Avacyn is unlikely to be profitable unless you're timing it exactly right against Fumigate, which requires a lot of things to go right. There's so many counter spells and casts out here for Moore to answer the Planeswalkers. And so the typical Mardu Vehicles go late plan, just not as good here as it is against some of the other decks we've seen in the previous standard formats.
Yeah, he's got for Korey, he's just got to get underneath him like he did in game 2.
Yeah,
that's the way it's going to go. This isn't about 5 and 6 mana spells here, because I just think those are nonsense in this matchup. It's an irrigated farmland for Clayton Moore, excuse me. For Korey McDuffie, it's Needle Spires. And now, no fast start for the McDuffie. So now SCGATL will be right. Cards like that are actually going to be good now. Here's Toolcraft Exemplar. Is there a counterspell here for Clayton Moore? I think he has a copy of Censor. But if he does, he's not going to play it. Maybe thinking he wants to get something better. That is a land in Prairie Stream. There's the battlefield tapped, of course.
And the opportunity cost for Moore to cycle the Censor is so low that he can sit and wait a little bit. That's a spot where Censor it's a meaningful distinction from Miscalculation. Miscalculation is the better card, but cycling 1 means you can kind of hold it up a little bit longer because 1 mana is so much less than 2 when it comes to cycling.
Horribly Awry is going to take care of the 3-bit Inspector, which means no artifact there for McDuffie for Toolcraft Exemplar, so just an attack for 1 with the powerful 1-drop, Moore down to 19. Moore, again, much like game number 1, with a little bit of mana issue, so we're going to head back McDuffie's way. He'll draw a Plains and has a copy of Gideon in hand. Will he cast it right now, or will he play around Censor? Keep in mind, McDuffie has not seen Censor yet in this match. I think you might be able to assume it's in Clayton Moore's deck, but he hasn't seen it yet.
Neither cast nor cycled thus far. But if it's on McDuffie's radar, he can just cast the Painful Truth in his hand, which is still a big prize if it resolves.
And here is Painful Truths. That will resolve. So 1, a 2, a 3. We saw a couple lands and Archangel Avacyn here from McDuffie.
Yeah, that's 1 out of the board and a great spot for it with McDuffie having mulliganed and not wanting to tap out for Gideon.
An attack for 1 is going to bring Moore down to 18. And now Moore is going to cycle the Censor, so he did have that.
It's got to feel good for Korey to see it.
Yeah?
Sometimes when you play around Mana Leak the whole game, you never get to know. But with Censor, you get to know.
Yeah, you're going to find out. Now keep in mind, the Censor could have taken care of that Toolcraft Exemplar early on. That was on McDuffie's radar. I think that card's going to be on a lot of people's radar. I imagine, based off of the hype around that card, it's going to be pretty popular this weekend.
So I think Moore's thinking, I didn't see his whole hand at the time, but since he missed a land drop, he was probably thinking, this card's not that critical. I might need to draw cards just to try to hit my land drops, so I'll clutch this for 1 more turn. If McDuffie presents something juicy that's worth 4 spiking, I'll do it, but if not, I'm just going to cycle this away and try to hit my land drops. And with McDuffie not having an artifact on the battlefield at the time, and with Moore still having counterspells in his hand, he probably felt the Toolcraft Exemplar wasn't as important at that spot as either countering something more impactful or having an opportunity to draw a land some turns down the line, which is how it shook out.
A Plains here for Korey, and he's able to continue to play around Censor if he is worried about that, as here is Gideon Zendikar with the mana available. Moore is going to go reaching immediately, and he will cycle a Censor. Censor 0 for 2.
Yep.
Gideon 1 for 1. It's in. A Night Ally will come in and just an attack here for 1. It's going to make it 17 all, but Clayton Moore's in some trouble now. He will untap. He will draw. Another copy of Irrigated Farmlands. Some counter magic over there for Clayton. He's got an Essence Scatter. He's got another copy of Horribly Awry, but he does not have an answer for that Gideon, it appears, just yet. McDuffie will draw.
It's a tough spot against Mardu Vehicles from Moore's side, because a lot of the counters that he has that are broad-based are 3 mana, and that's pretty pricey for a deck that can beat you down, as we saw in game number 2. And the good 2-mana counter spells are very creature-specific. You're looking at Essence Scatter and Horribly Awry, which means there's just some holes in the armor here with Painful Truths and Gideon Zendikar resolving in back-to-back turns.
Yeah, it's much different than the days of when it was Counterspell and Mana Leak,
right,
as an example. Some things have changed, we'll say. Here is Heart of Kirin. That will trigger the Toolcraft Exemplar, and here come the beatdowns. Korey very careful to not activate the Gideon as an attacker here. I think the plan might be just to make another 2/2 Knight Ally.
Well, I think McDuffie's, the thing he's worried about the most, I think, is getting blown out by Engulf the Shores. Because the worst case scenario is you lose your whole turn and your board. And in the process of rebuilding, well, Clayton just gets to cast Approach of the Second Sun, draw some cards, and kill you that way. He can win the race, so to speak. As long as McDuffie can keep some of his board intact by either keeping Gideon a Planeswalker, not activating the Heart of Kieran, and so forth, he at least has some board left in case he gets hit with Engulf the Shores. It's also protection against Fumigate as well. So he has several incentives here to just sort of hang back with some of the stuff and make sure his whole board doesn't get bounced.
Here's Pull from tomorrow just for 2. And Moore will have to discard an additional copy. He'll now draw for the turn. And he'll play an island.
I'll say this, it is painful for a deck with Pull from tomorrow to play with so many lands that enter the battlefield tap.
I agree.
You are going to feel that one card down you're going to be a lot of the time, like we just had with Moore. Difference between draw 3 and draw 2 in that spot feels really big.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal. McDuffie will draw. And now it's kind of trying to set up Engulf, at least one. It is a card that Clayton Moore does play 3 copies of in his deck, but he certainly needs one now because, as you mentioned, McDuffie's done a nice job of playing around that card. He's done a nice job of playing around Fumigate, having that be a giant beating.
Well, from McDuffie's perspective now, what you got to be thinking is, well, what happens if he just goes land approach, untap approach? You can still lose the game here. So this is the squeeze that McDuffie's in. He doesn't want to go all out and just animate Heart of Kieran and turn on my Gideon Allies in the card, because that's a good way for Engulf the Shores to give Moore a lot of breathing space. But if you slow play this too much, Moore can just win the game with his signature card. So, you know, threading that needle from McDuffie's side is very complicated.
7 is how much Clayton Moore will take from this attack. He's going to fall down to 5.
You want to be in a position where if Moore untaps and taps out to gain 7, you kill him on the way back. You want to make sure you get at least that much damage in. Past that, protecting yourselves against Engulf the Shores or Fumigate, I think is sort of the second-tier priority.
Another Night Ally here from Korey. He'll play a land, and it looks like he's just going to pass the turn back. So now Clayton Moore is another pull. It is. So 3rd pull that we've seen this game. 2nd one he's cast. He had to discard 1 previously. He'll draw 4, discard 1. He's going to need a heck of a series of cards to get himself out of this one. He's going to discard another copy of Irrigated Farmlands. He'll draw a card.
I'm really excited that this card does not interact with Torrential Gearhulk, because I don't know if Moore's got the best deck here, but I'm having some flashbacks to some Sphinx's Revelation type of moments here. If the game is close to even, Pull, untap, answer the board, I think it's going to win the game in a huge percentage of spots.
I'm just going to put this out there. Haven't seen him, haven't talked to him. I've got pretty strong feeling Jim Davis is probably casting that card this weekend.
Definitely, yeah.
I would be shocked if Jim Davis showed up to this tournament and didn't have Gearhulk and Pull in his deck.
You mean Chase's Ingenuity, Confirmed Suspicions guy might find room in this deck for this?
Yeah, I think he might find some space for those cards.
I think you're right.
Yeah. It's a very Jim Davis-esque thing to do. What does he have around it? Don't know, but that's my assumption is that's what he's up to this weekend. We'll find out soon enough as Moore will discard an island. McDuffie going to be untapping. He'll be drawing. And he doesn't need much more to cross the finish line. But we'll see.
But there's a lot of interaction that Moore can have here.
Yeah.
And there's no way for McDuffie to win the game this turn through Engulf the Shore. So if Moore's got it, he's got at least 1 more turn.
Well, if he's got it, he better have it right now because he needs it. 4 mana. There is Glimmer, not so much.
McDuffie's got to be thrilled that is what Moore just did for 4 mana.
You can take a look at as many cards as you'd like. That is going to do it. Korey McDuffie is going to win this match here over Clayton Moore, 2-1. Mardu Vehicles going to win this match here over Blue-White Control. And Mardu Vehicles still a prime contender in this format, but it feels like, and I agree with you, there's something here with some sort of blue-based strategy with Gearhulks and with Pull from tomorrow.
Well, you saw what makes Mardu Vehicles so hard.